Hello, good evening, Karen. How are you? Is everything okay?
Hi, teacher. Yes, I'm fine. I'm just a little tired, but I'm
Oh,
fine.
okay,
You?
that's good to know, Karen. I'm fine, thanks. I think I'm better as well, so that's good news. So let's start with today's practice, all right? We
Yes.
have now one article from the BBC, all right? As you can see, this is the BBC webpage. This is the section Future, and this is the title of this article. So to start today, please, Karen, I'm going to ask you to read the headline, and we are going to try to talk about it.
Okay. How past pandemics may have caused Parkinson's?
All right, thank you. So it's short, right? It's a very short headline, but it's important to understand what it means so that the article is clear. So what can you tell me? How can you explain this idea in your own words? You can paraphrase and you can use different ideas and guess. What do you say about this headline, Kat?
I think that talk about that eh, the pandemics generate that people forget about them. So I think that is why the title talk about the Parkinson's, because Parkinson's is a illness that generate that people forget many things.
Okay, what you're doing is interesting because you're using these ideas as a metaphor, right? And what you're saying is true. Many people have forgotten that we have had like many pandemics in the past, right? This was not the first one, and this was not the worst one, right? The pandemics we had before were way worse than this one, and well, we have a history with it, but we still make the same mistakes, right? So I agree with that one, and it's correct, and your interpretation in terms of metaphor is also correct. But what about the idea that this can be literal? If the meaning of this title or headline is literal, how can you explain that one? If it's just the way you see it in the headline.
If if the title was no. Uh,
If it's not a metaphor, because what you're saying it's very good, but in this case, actually, this title or this headline is not a metaphor. Actually, it's giving literal and concrete information. All right. If that's the case, then how can you explain once again? Instead of talking about metaphors, right? People forgetting about pandemics, what connection can you make between pandemics and Parkinson, but in a literal way, in a concrete way? What do you say?
well, the pandemics are illness that in the first we don't know about them, but with the time we learn. So I think that the problems that those pandemics generate maybe caused Parkinson.
Okay, all right, yes. Yes, in this case, again, it's going to be more literal and it's what you're saying, all right? So all in all, we are now understanding that perhaps pandemics as the Spanish flu, right, la fiebre española, that was it was a disaster. They are finding evidence that perhaps it caused Parkinson, all right? And now in this article, they are going to try to analyze if people that had COVID, they are also going to be more likely to have Parkinson in the future. All right, why? Because they are going to analyze how some viruses, because you know the COVID is a virus, it also perhaps affects the brain. All right, so that's what we're going to see here. We're going to see the connection between the past pandemics and Parkinson, but also this pandemic and possibly some future consequences. Even though you are good after the COVID, they say that there might be some consequences, and one of them, for example, is this one. Okay, so let's analyze. It's interesting to know this information. It's perhaps something a little bit not good, but it's important to know that so that we know how to prevent this. Okay, so let's learn more about that, Karen. But I want to know if you have any questions about these words. I think everything is clear, right?
Yes.
All right. So let's go to the next part, and here it's even going to be clearer. Let's read the introduction for this article now, please.
Surviving a pandemic isn't always the end of the story. Some virus can have health effects that linger on for decades, eventually leading to a range of devastating disease.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. So, in this case, before going to the pronunciation, again, what can you tell me about this introduction? It's what we said at the beginning, but now, again, using your words, how can you explain this introduction? What are they stating here, Karen?
Mm, well, the when a pandemic passed, we almost always have effects about this illness. So these effects could be more lethal than the how can I say that la misma pandemia, the same pandemic? I don't know.
No, no, that it's interesting, okay? That's a very interesting expression. You say that the very pandemic. You say very, okay?
Very
Very,
like la misma, like decir
uh-huh,
eso.
very, uh-huh. The very is like the exact, all right? Like the that the very pandemic.
Okay, like the very pandemic.
Okay, I think it was perfectly explained, Karen. Thank you very much. And you're right. Again, I cannot add any more information, only two details there. Instead, when a pandemic passed, right, in past, as you're giving an explanation, a general explanation, it's a fact, then you have to use the simple present. So you can say a pandemic passes, right, or finishes, or it's done, right? But in present. Then the last part, yes, and the pronunciation of, how do you say letal one more time?
Letal.
Uh-huh,
What are you?
close. So this is the writing. Okay, this is the writing, and try to tell me what the pronunciation is going to be. If that is sorry, if that is the writing, the spelling, remember, try to use the English vowel and try to use the th rule. So how is it going to be?
Little.
Good, exactly. Lethal, right? Like the lethal. All right, good, great. And that was great explained. Good. So, yes, you're right. Sometimes the effects can be even more devastating, right? Can be more dangerous, more harming than the very pandemic, right? Or you can say this other expression, the one that I told you is for a lot of emphasis. If you only want to clarify that one, you can say than the pandemic itself. All right, than the pandemic itself. Is like saying que la misma pandemia. All right, so the pandemic itself. But again, using this word, and again, the word is that one, right? Very, that's very interesting, because very is usually to give emphasis, but very also means exact as an adjective. All right. So if you say at the very beginning, it means at that exact moment when everything started, okay, at the very beginning. All right. So again, it's a very exact moment. or a very exact thing that you want to put emphasis on, or you can use this one, all right, reflexive pronouns itself after the noun that you want to say, right? So you say, for example, it's more important than the teacher itself, right? So the student is more important than the teacher itself. Or if you want to give a sex to the teacher, you say the teacher himself or herself, or you can use plural as well, all right, themselves. But now let's go to some words. Before going to the vocabulary, let's repeat these words, please, Karen. All of them are plural. So we need to add the S here. So this is going to be viruses. Okay, it's virus, singular, viruses, plural. Let's repeat that one, please.
Viruses.
Good. This is decades.
Decades.
Good. This one also, please. Devastating.
Devastating.
Good. And diseases.
Diseases.
And in between, when you have an S in between vowels, that S is going to be more like Z, like in Brazil, right? So it's going to be diseases, diseases. One more time, please.
Diseases.
All right, good. There you go. So because the way, sorry, because of the way you explained, Karen, I think that you get all the words here. But let me ask you, do you have any questions about the words in this introduction? Let me know, please.
What's the meaning of linger?
In this case, linger always works with one more word. In this case, linger on. Linger on means to persist, to keep, all right, or to be there for a long time, all right. That's why they say, right, they can have health effects that linger on, that continue, that persist for decades, all right. It means that those effects are not going to disappear soon, but they are going to stay there and they are not going to go anywhere, all right. That's to linger on. What else,
Okay.
Karen?
The word leading, it's with is the verb lead, but with ing.
With ing, exactly, because this is the gerund form, right? And you use the gerund form when you want to use only phrases, not complete ideas. All right. Eventually, leading right to a range of devastating diseases. It means guiding or resulting in. All right. But yes, it's the lead plus ing.
And the meaning of range.
Range. It's very similar to the Spanish word, right? Like uh you can say a space, all right, a space in between. You can have a lot of things. For example, a range of diseases, right? You have this range, and in this range, in between the range, you have some diseases, right? A range of, let's say, colors. So in that space, in that, let's say, part, you have a lot of options in terms of colors, right? And again, in Spanish, it will be only like un rango de. All right, in that term. So I don't know if you have any more questions, Gary.
No.
All right, so now let's go because I want to continue. We have the time, that's great. And I want you to read, please, these two paragraphs now. On Thursday, we're going to continue, but it's important that we have at least this introduction so that we can continue working with the next part. So let's read this, please, Gary.
Okay. In the 1960s, epidemiologists studying the long-term prognosis of survivors of the 1980 Spanish influenza began to notice an unusual trend. Those who were born between 1888 and 1924, meaning they were either infants or in young adulthood at the time of the pandemic, appeared to have been 2 or 3 times more likely to develop Parkinson's disease at some point in their life that those born at different times. It was a striking finding for while the potential neurological consequences of flu infections have been documented by doctors for centuries. There are medical reports of this which date back to 1385. The sheer scale of the Spanish flu, which infect around, I don't remember how to say 500.
How is that possible, Karen? All right, it's 500. Okay, 500.
Yes, 500 million people globally means scientists could link at a tender and a tenant risk of this disease to the pandemic.
Thank you very much. Good. Now, again, here we have a lot of vocabulary, right? That it's very interesting and it's important that we can understand, that we can use, right? So, in general, first, I know that we are actually with the time, so we're not going to have an explanation now. We're going to go directly to the words and then to some vocabulary that you don't get. And then we are going to have this as the introduction for the next session, all right? But very, very briefly. So now let's repeat these words, please. First, I want you to repeat this word over here. Sorry, not this one, because I corroborated that it was good here. This word, please.
Develop.
All right. Only the stress is more like in the middle, like develop, develop,
Develop.
develop. Good. This one, it follows the same rule as this one. If this is finding, this is striking. All right, so let's repeat that one, please.
Striking.
Striking, good. This more like, instead of neuro, it's more like neurological.
Neurological.
Exactly, good. This one, don't forget about the ed, right? Because you said document, it's correct, but this is documented.
Documented.
Okay, good. This is like double E, and you remember double consonant, sorry, double vowel, it's always this, the English sound, so E. All right, so a sheer.
Sheer.
Good. This one, let's practice once again, right? 500.
500.
Uh-huh. And this is heightened. Heightened.
Heightened.
Good. Now, let's finish up by, first, if you have questions about the overall meaning, let me know, Karen. But you can ask me questions now about the meaning of the two paragraphs in general, and also about the specific words. What do you say? What questions do you have?
The I think specific words, but I am using the Cambridge dictionary. I don't
All
know.
right,
And
that's
it's
great.
very good. So I think that with the dictionary I can learn about the words that now I don't know.
All right, good. If that's okay, that's perfect. Perhaps you can only tell me a couple of words that you believe can be very difficult, and then the rest of the words, again, you can do it by yourself, which is perfect because it's always the best way, right, of learning new words. What do you say? Two words that you believe are very new for you.
Okay. Is striking? No, striking.
Striking. Striking can be like surprising, shocking. Okay, it was a striking finding. It means it was very surprising, it was different, it was not expected. All right, it was something also shocking. Okay, that produces shock because it's too different. What else?
And the last one, I think that I forgot. I forget the pronunciation. He,
Ah, you can focus in two parts. First, actually in three parts. First, this one. Remember, how do you say altura? high. And
Ah,
high is the adjective, high, only H-I-G-H, right? But this is the noun, height. And actually it's until here, height, okay, altura. It also means like an increment of something. So when you add to that word heighten, all right, heighten, it means again that there is an increment of something, and in this case, this is in the participle form with ed. All right, so it means many scientists could link a heightened risk, so an increased risk of disease to the pandemic. All right, heightened, increased, elevated, those. All
okay.
right, good. And again, take a look at those words. My recommendations then for you to finish, Karen. Try to take a look at these ones, right? And actually, let me do that because that's what we have to do, right? At the end of each reading, that one is clear. Here, linger on, just in case. I know that you have your notes over there, but these are the ones that we need to have for the document, right? The virtual document that I told you. Then devastating, it's also important to use this. This is an adjective, right? We were practicing adjectives yesterday, so that's an adjective. Ing, in this case, it's only for gerund, leading. Let's try to use also that word over there. Prognosis. Okay, prognosis is related to prediction, to the future. Then survivors, now everything is clear over there. Actually, this word, I know that also it can be clear, but it's interesting using that one in some ideas. Okay, just a couple more, please. And this can be interesting. This word doesn't have a lot of meanings. Okay, it can be pure or without any interference. And this one over here. And of course, if you have other words that and the one you told me, right, is striking. And you know that you can add even more words if you feel like doing that. So that's it. I don't know if you have questions or comments before finishing today, Karen. Let me know, please.
No.
All right. So again, next class, we're going to, not the class, actually, the conversation. Next conversation, a short, like a reminder about these two paragraphs. We're going to read them very fast. We're going to try to go back to the information, and we're going to continue reading some more paragraphs. All right.
Okay.
Now I'm going to share the link or the survey as always. There you go. You can answer those questions and let me know when you do it, please.
Okay. Okay, teacher.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night, Karen, and I'll see you tomorrow. All
See
right.
you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye, teacher.